Coming up on WFT's First at 5, fighting back against the local school district's immigration policy, who they say is left out of their latest strategy involving ICE agents in schools.
Plus, a regulated black bear hunt is coming to Florida, the size the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission must consider.
And we've got a string of storms that could bring severe weather to our area this weekend. I'll tell you the timing coming up. First at 5 starts now.
First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Parents in Alachua County spoke out at a school board meeting last night, voicing their concerns about the district letting ICE agents into the school. This is WFT's First at 5. I'm Nick Diaz.
And I'm Alex Land. The district's current policy allows immigration officers to detain students for questioning without a warrant or parental consent. WUFT's Jack Meyer is live in the newsroom with how this might affect both students and parents coming up in weeks. Jack, several teachers spoke out against the policy too.
That's right, Alex. At last night's meeting, parents and educators alike voiced their disapproval of the district's memo to allow ICE agents into schools. Those who oppose the memo say that it could cause extra political turmoil in what should be a safe haven for children. ACPS held public comment where those in the community were allowed to express their concerns on a memo sent out regarding immigration officers in the district. The memo was described by those in protest as vague and unhelpful. Teachers like Jessica Rockstein say it is the district's responsibility to address these changing norms in a political climate where minority children are more vulnerable to attacks on their identity.
The language in your staff memo requesting instead of requiring proper procedures and documents is not acceptable.
Those in attendance said that ACPS already suffers from an academic gap between white and non-white students. Data shows a difference of 47 percentage points in reading levels between black and white children alone. They believe the district is not doing their best to fix these disparities.
In a district already failing to close the achievement gap between white and minority students, the district must release a plan to address this.
Ethan Maya Denadel of the Gainesville Immigrant Neighbor Inclusion Initiative said the concerns surrounding the memo come down to one boiling factor: parents not being able to protect their kids in these potentially stressful situations.
I ask you, though, how requiring parental consent for law enforcement to speak with their child or for a warrant to detain a minor while they're at school wanting to learn is in any way controversial.
The memo comes as the latest response in a nationwide crackdown on immigration enforcement. Reporting live from the newsroom, Jack Meyer, WUFT News.
Also at last night's meeting, school board members voted 4-0 to file an appeal against the Florida Department of Education's decision to turn a Newberry school into a charter one. In February, the state DOE approved the request to turn that elementary school to a charter school. Now it's up to Alachua County school board members to draft a contract to present to the new school's organizers. But they hope to appeal first. School board members say if the appeal doesn't pass, the contract may not include things that are necessary for students, placing a burden on the district.
This week has been jackets in the morning and flip-flops in the afternoon. This roller coaster ride of weather will continue as another front is on its way to north central Florida. UF forecaster Ganzarz-Davies is live in the weather studio, timing out that next round of severe weather.
Thank you, Nick. That next round of storms is going to be making its way to us on Sunday, but currently we are seeing nearly completely clear skies on our campus cam looking to the east. But if we switch to the west, we can see there are some clouds that are going to be making their way towards us. Current temperatures are just below 70 degrees, but those clouds that are on their way are going to be making their way towards us now. This is what we're seeing. Luckily, they're going to clear out that rain just before they reach us here in Gainesville. Might have some lingering clouds, but we won't be seeing any of the wet effects of that. This evening, there is a lunar eclipse that you can see around 12 a.m. If you're peering through those clouds, you need to be very purposeful when you're looking at that. We're also tracking this system, which will be making its way towards us this weekend.
There are two new ways to receive real-time disaster help in Spanish. Officials with Alachua County Emergency Management say auto-translation services have been confusing when sharing information online. Residents can now text Alachua ESP to 888-777 to receive critical text message updates in Spanish during a disaster. Emergency management officials also made a dedicated Facebook profile for sharing information in Spanish. To learn more, visit Alachua County Ready en Español.
GRU Authority Board members say they are considering ending their relationship with the city to provide storm, water, and trash services. GRU Authority Board Manager Ed Belarski answered questions from members of the media this morning about what this will mean for the city. Belarski said he's working with Gainesville City Manager Cynthia Curry to stop charging customers for stormwater and waste on their utility bill. As of right now, GRU bills customers for stormwater and trash collection on top of electricity fees. Belarski says it's hard to compare GRU's rates to other localities like Clay Electric.
You know, there are customers that will get their power shut off because the sum of all the charges they get, you know, are more than what they can pay, and they get their power shut off.
He says GRU's combined services of water, wastewater, natural gas, and telecommunications is more than the board authority can handle, and that it should be the city's responsibility.
In less than an hour, FWC wants to hear from you about whether they should bring back the state's regulated black bear hunt. The last one was a decade ago. Wildlife officers say a hunt could balance species members and maintain a healthy population. WFT's Bernardo Montas is live in the studio with both sides the commission will consider.
The Florida Wildlife Commission will hear comments today about options for a regulated black bear hunt. It wouldn't be a first for Florida. I looked into one of the state's most recent debates about controlling its bear population.
If you're from North Central Florida, then you've probably seen something like this. A black bear taking a stroll across your driveway or backyard. But it's a sight you may see less often. The Florida Wildlife Commission is weighing options for a possible hunt to help regulate the bear population. For Floridian lawmakers like Representative Anna Escamani, a hunt isn't a part of the solution.
It's shameful that Florida is even considering another round of bear hunts, knowing just how close we have been in the past to losing black bears in the Sunshine State.
Most recently, Representative Escamani opposed House Bill 87, which Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law last year. It allows people to kill bears without a permit if they feel threatened. Previously, people were taken to jail for killing bears without state approval. Representative Escamani says the law hurts black bears more than it helps us.
My concern with legislation that passed last year is that it really opens up the door to people wrongfully killing black bears when they're not allowed to do so.
Other Floridian lawmakers like Representative Jason Schoaf disagree. He says that killing a bear can leave people traumatized,
but not as traumatized as they would be as if they had to sit there and watch that thing get all the way into their home and come within a foot of themselves, or as traumatized as they'll be in Rep. Trabolsi's friend's case if they get handcuffed and taken to jail.
Now, the FWC must decide exactly how it'll continue black bear regulation efforts. Bernardo Montas, WUFT News.
The FWC's virtual public meeting is today at 6 p.m. You can join by going to myfwc.com/hunting. You can also email your comments to bearcomments@myfwc.org. Live in the studio, Bernardo Montas, WUFT News.
Coming up, being a college student is hard as it is.
When First at 5 returns, we'll show you one support group, how it's helping students with autoimmune disorders, the resources and technology available to them. Stick with us.
Watching WUFT-TV News.
Some students need additional help to go through extra hardships outside of the classroom.
The diabetic community at the University of Florida is building a support system. WUFT's Eva Garcia is live in the studio with how they're stepping up for those who sometimes get overlooked.
Over 11% of the U.S. population is diabetic. To support full-time students with diabetes, nonprofit organization The Diabetes Link opened a chapter at UF just months ago to help students gain a community who are fighting their same battles.
It's a constant job, you know, you can't forget about it, and being someone who's forgetful, it does get hard sometimes.
Many students with diabetes feel foreign, specifically in the classroom. Having to manage regulating their blood sugar with multiple devices, food, and exercise, finding a balance can be difficult. UF Diabetes Link Vice President Ana Ferreira explained feelings of alienation.
And I've always felt like, oh, I should do better, like I'm so bad at like diabetes, like that's how I would think of it. And then I meet people in this club and like they're all like, yeah, I totally get it. I do the same thing.
The Diabetes Link has chapters in universities all over the country. Their goal? Provide support and resources for these young adults. The program coordinator for UF's chapter says priorities adjust depending on the needs of the diabetic community.
whether that's advocacy, education, resources, helping with accommodations, they can kind of decide.
UF's chapter makes the effort to incorporate guest speakers. Clinical Assistant Professor Sunny Darcy teaches in the Occupational Therapy Department and is a diabetic. Her four-legged friend helps her manage the condition. She says the Diabetes Link is an incredible support network.
If I can sit in a room and talk about the different kinds of pumps and how the adhesive to my Dexcom falling off or on, it makes a difference in the quality of life knowing that I'm not alone.
Regardless of the complications that come with the disease, these students are resilient.
I'm not going to get down on myself because something happened to me. I'm going to take the cards that I was dealt and make the most of it. So.
The organization is currently working on initiatives to help support diabetics around campus. This includes adding glucose tablets in stations around the school. Live in the studio, Eva Garcia, WUFT News.
Coming up, we're tracking a series of storms that could bring severe weather to our region.
Watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome back to First at 5. So guys, tonight we should be seeing a lunar eclipse, which is super exciting.
Yeah, Alex, and Ben, can you tell us about this red moon that we're going to be seeing tonight?
Yeah, definitely. The moon's going to be looking pretty red in the sky, which is an unusual occasion. Hopefully we'll be able to see it through some clouds that we do have headed our way. Looking at our campus cam, you can see those clouds over to the west. Current temperatures are just below 80 degrees, but that's going to be decreasing as well as we look further into this evening. Those clouds are coming from this rain system currently over by Tallahassee, but as it makes its way towards us, that rain is going to dilute, but we might just be left with some lingering clouds. Not so much the wet part of that system here in Gainesville. Looking at our hour by hour for the evening, those mid-70s are going down to those mid-50s. And the best visibility for the lunar eclipse is going to be just around midnight. So if you're staying up late, you might be able to catch a glimpse of that red moon. Now, what exactly is a lunar eclipse? When the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow, that bright, bright light from the sun illuminates the moon in red, giving it that color, which we don't normally see except on the rare occasion, especially on a full moon like tonight. Looking at our hour by hour for the rest of tomorrow, we have those temperatures climbing back up to the 80s, where we're going to be feeling quite warm. This is the system we were looking at just a moment ago that's going to be affecting us on Sunday. On Friday, it's going to be mainly up here in Tennessee, where it's going to have severe risk. That's high winds, possible thunderstorms, and possible tornadoes. On Saturday, it's moving a bit closer to us, hitting its main peak in Mississippi and just the very tip of the Panhandle. And again, here we'll be seeing possible hail and again those chances of tornadoes. This is the system moving through, timing it out for you. On Saturday day is when it's going to have its biggest impact on the Panhandle, making its way towards us in those early morning hours of Sunday. And throughout the day on Sunday is when we here in Gainesville and North Central Florida are going to be seeing the biggest impact of that rain in the late afternoon. It's going to continue to move past us, hitting southern Florida in those early morning hours of Monday, and it should be out of our hair by the time of next week, especially when you're driving back to work this coming week. How much rain is going to be coming for us? You can see those numbers increasing. Over here in Perry, they're having the most rain, 3 inches, where most of us here in Gainesville and Ocala will be seeing about an inch of rain, give or take. Saturday, we're going to see those bright sun in the sky, just a little bit of cloud coverage, but we're going to have a shifting pattern for Sunday when we have those storms coming through. We're having chances of rain throughout the day, still warm temperatures, but with that severe thunderstorm risk, you want to make sure to stay inside and stay safe. Looking at our 7-day outlook, you have a bit of a tumultuous week with different conditions coming through.
Future moms and dads are invited to attend what Marion County officials are calling the world's greatest baby shower tomorrow afternoon. The sessions at the Mary Sue Rich Center in Ocala will include games, prizes, and a scavenger hunt. Pre-registration is not required, but future parents are asked to only attend one session. Parents of infants up to a year old are also invited.
Coming up in sports, the SEC tournament is underway in Nashville with the second round going on throughout the day. We'll have live score updates for you. And we're live at the conclusion of Gator football spring practice, plus an update to the status of quarterback DJ Lagway. Stay with us after the break.
Watching WUFT-TV News.
Happy Thursday and welcome to sports. I'm Daniel Haviv. Florida football is in their second week of spring camp, just under a month away from the orange and blue game. WUFT's Ethan Eibe is live outside of the Heavener Football Complex. Ethan, I'm hearing some really good things about the young talent this season.
Gators football back in action today here at the Heavener Football Training Center for the 4th day of spring practice. The Gators just wrapping things up. Still, the biggest concern for this Gators team is quarterback DJ Lagway's health. He's been limited to his throwing so far due to a shoulder injury as well as a lower body issue. A couple of bright spots, though, for this Gators team. Cornerback Cormani McLean has stood out. He gained 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason, as well as Dallas Wilson, the freshman Oregon commit, flipped to Florida. He's been showing out early in the spring. Now, Billy Napier does have a media availability set for 6:30 tonight, so we'll get you that tomorrow in sports. In the meantime, reporting live from the Heavener Football Training Center, Ethan Eibe, WUFT Sports.
Gators men's basketball awaits their opponent for tomorrow's SEC quarterfinals. The game comes with some extra motivation as a few Florida players were left off the all-conference teams. Head coach Todd Golden is embracing this chip on his team's shoulder.
With Elijah and Will not making any of the all-league teams, and then, Elijah and Ruben not getting on all defense. I think those are things that, our team will definitely use as motivation going into this weekend.
The men's SEC basketball tournament is underway with 4 teams already advancing yesterday. Let's run through who made the cut for today's second round. Now, starting the day off, Arkansas beat South Carolina in a tight one. Here's a great lob by DJ Wagner. The Razorbacks led for most of the game, and they actually just lost to Ole Miss to get sent home. Now, Texas took care of a tough Vanderbilt team. Vandy ended their regular season pretty hot, but Trey Johnson of Texas took over. The Longhorns are currently facing Texas A&M. And for the most lopsided game of the day, Mississippi State blew out LSU by almost 30 points. The Bulldogs will face Missouri tonight, and the winner plays the Gators tomorrow in the quarterfinals. And for the last game of the day, Oklahoma beat Georgia in a really close one. Jeremiah Fears of the Sooners dropped 29 points. Now, both teams needed this win to secure a potential spot in the NCAA tournament. And for today's second round games, Ole Miss hit a game-winning 3 to beat Arkansas earlier. The Rebels' Sean Padula was 0 for 6 from 3 before hitting that shot. Texas A&M currently leads Texas 40-36. Mississippi State is slated to face Missouri at 7. And for the last game of the night, Oklahoma meets Kentucky at the conclusion of the previous game. Now moving to the Diamond, Gators softball beat UCF 3-0 last night, giving them their 11th shutout of the season. The third-ranked Gators continue to lead the nation in home runs after homers from Kendra Falby and Jocelyn Erickson. They raked in 3 runs after only 4 hits. Florida awaits their toughest opponent so far this season, with number 2 Texas coming to Gainesville for a series this weekend. And one final note, the Tampa Bay Rays announced they'll abandon their plans to build a new ballpark in St. Petersburg and plan to move back into a repaired Tropicana Field in 2026. We'll be back with the rest of your newscast after the break.
We've got a bit of a varied week of weather coming up, with temperatures climbing until Sunday, where we have a cold front and possible severe storms that'll bring that temperature back down to the 70s. Climbing again for the rest of the week, our lows are also a bit varied, 50s, 60s, and 40s coming up.
Yeah, Ben, and hopefully that rain this weekend doesn't affect the plans of anyone who's on spring break. Thanks for joining us. We're back here tomorrow for another edition of First at 5.
But your North Central Florida news is always on at WFT.org and all of our social media platforms. Have a good night.